Good morning, everyone. It's January 2nd, 2019. Why is the UN hiring English-speaking disarmament officers in New York? This one comes from Daisy Luther via the Organic Prepper blog. Alright, so for the last 20 years, and this is a rough number, it's not exact, but about, we have heard time and time again rumors of the United Nations, along with other government bodies, plotting to disarm the American people. Now, a lot of people will call this simply nothing more than a conspiracy theory. However, just like the U.S. Army manual, the Internment and Resettlement Operations manual, and the job postings to man these internment camps, we have another hiring spree going on with the United Nations. This time it's for English-speaking disarmament, demobilization, and, get this, reintegration officers. Sounds a lot like that post, doesn't it? From what, 2012, 2013 time? But let me go ahead and cover what she says here. As the Second Amendment conflict heats up across the United States, here's another crazy conspiracy theory that has turned out to be true. The United Nations is hiring in New York. What positions are they trying to fill? English-speaking, disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration officers. And I think these are three different positions here. This job was posted the day after Christmas. So, for all the folks who have been saying, nobody is trying to take your guns, you might want to read this job listing and reconsider your opinion. Now, is this in response to the so-called Virginia crisis? I say so-called because, well, it seems to me everything in this world anymore is a crisis, terrifying, scary, and so on. So, I don't like these words that are misused constantly. But she calls it a crisis. You may recall that citizens of Virginia have become outraged recently by new laws that are likely to pass this month, effectively banning all semi-automatic weapons. Sanctuary counties, cities, and municipalities now cover all but the most urban parts of the state. These sanctuaries have vowed to support the Second Amendment and are refusing to enforce unconstitutional gun laws. Now, let me stop right there, because that part of the sentence really isn't true. If they've taken the guns from anybody in the last 40 years for any reason other than misuse of the firearm, then they have enforced unconstitutional gun laws. In response, a member of the state Congress suggested that Governor Northam could call up the National Guard to disarm residents of Virginia despite the wishes of local governments. In response to that, at least one county has formed a militia and others are expected to spring up. And you know my take on militias, okay? The state's attorney general says that these sanctuaries carry no legal weight. Well, just like the sanctuary cities for the um, thousands and thousands of illegal immigrants carry no legal weight either, but they're still doing it. Despite the AG's opinion, Attorney General, and threats from the state government, Virginians appear to have no plan to give up their guns or register them. Many members of law enforcement entities and the National Guard have said that they will not act on unconstitutional orders, which is a lie in itself. They do it every day. One has to wonder if this is why the UN is hiring disarmament officers. What is the job description? Here are the responsibilities for the new hires as per the United Nations job listing. Why? Why are these fucking people got to be? Why do they have to even exist? Okay, well, let me restate that last statement here, or sentence. Here are the responsibilities for the new hires as per the United Nations job listing within delegated authority. The disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration officer will be responsible for the following duties. Well, it may be just one position. Acts as a focal point for disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration components for 2 to 3 missions. Responsible for planning, support to implementation, and evaluation. Participants in DPO and integrated task force planning meetings for the establishment of a new peacekeeping mission with a potential DDR component. Now remember, the so-called peacekeepers have a nasty habit of raping women and children, and have fathered many, many children from third world nations, and some of these children are birthed by children. So there's that. Provides technical assistance to peace negotiations. Participates in technical assessment missions. Advises, develops, and reviews as appropriate initial DDR functional strategy and concept of operations for further development into a full program by the DDR component and the National DDR Commission. Drafts and reviews DDR inputs to SC report, code cables, and talking points. Develops initial result-based framework and budget for new DDR components in new missions or in new mission. Liaisons with UNDP and donor community to raise voluntary contributions for DDR programs. Presents and or defends new and subsequent DDR budgetary requirements in the ACA BQ, and the Fifth Committee of the General Assembly. I mean, there's a lot of them here. She goes on to say, also notable is the required language fluency, English, and the desired experience. 7 years of relevant experience in disarmament affairs, political analysis, or in national military or paramilitary services or service, preferably related to the design, implementation, or review of DDR. Employees would answer to the Secretary General of the United Nations. As per the UN, here are some specifics about this job description of special note. Why now? That's what I want to know. Why just all of a sudden, right after Christmas? Why now? All right, disarmament is the collection, documentation, control, and disposal of small arms, ammunition, explosives, and light and heavy weapons of combatants, and often also of the civilian population. Disarmament also includes the development of responsible arms management programs. As well, the UN especially wants women to apply for this job, citing gender equality. Now let me stop right there for a moment. And don't get me wrong, I know women are capable. Okay, I understand this. I understand that many women are better shots than men because they lack the ego that men do, or that men have, right? However, thinking in a logical manner is not a strong suit of women. They are emotional, and that's what makes them much better mothers than men, or more compassionate, I should say. But I digress. So they want women for this role. What do you suppose is going to happen to these women when they come rolling up on a large militia compound with the intent of disarming the individuals inside of the compound? Okay, citing gender equality. But is it possible they think that a gun owner might have more ethical difficulty firing on a woman trying to take their weapons than a man? Let me tell you right now, I do not have these ethical dilemmas. I will shoot a woman just the same as I'll shoot a man. The U.S. is no longer part of the UN Arms Trade Treaty. Excuse me. And by the way, this is going to be a fairly long video because I have a couple points to make after we go over this. And if you like my content, please do subscribe, share, thumbs up, and throw $1 in the bucket if I'm worthy of it through my PayPal account. All right. You may recall back in 2013, the United Nations convinced then Secretary of State John Kerry to sign a treaty that unequivocally bans arms transfers that are in violation of a UN's arms embargo, or that exporters have reason to know will be used to commit genocide and other grievous war crimes. In 2013, the U.S. signed the UN's Arms Trade Treaty, but that signature was never ratified. Last April, President Trump officially withdrew from the International Gun Control Treaty. And by the way, laws never being ratified has never stopped them before. The income tax, for example, the Federal Reserve Act as another. However noble that may sound, anti-gun control activists were concerned this would lead to the UN being able to disarm Americans on U.S. soil, and they can. So, is this the UN looking for English-speaking disarmament experts? Don't be silly. No one is coming to take your guns. Now, how can we counter this? One of the ways to counter this is for good people who've never shared their opinion on gun control on social media to apply for these jobs. And when the time comes to shoot their comrades, their fellow UN officers, and anybody participating in these confiscations in the back. How many times has someone told you, don't worry, nobody is coming to take your guns away? That all they want is a common sense gun laws, or all they want is common sense gun laws. And in light of the current political climate and this job listing, I'd say that this is an outright lie. They are coming to take your weapons. Now, again, this is on Zero Hedge, originally posted at Organic Prepper blog. So we'll move on to the next one because it is relevant to our current situation, and that is the behavior of certain government officials and law enforcement. This woman here, she was tased, tackled for refusing to let cops in without a warrant. And it looks like there's a video attached, so we need not read the article. We can just simply look at the video if it cooperates. Let's see what happens. Bert. You gonna cooperate, computer, or not? Come on.
Granny! Look at this shit, dog. Bruh. Look at this shit, dog. She bleeding. She's Gloria. Sir, please. He got his gun. Sir. Hey, come here. Watch out. Can you just go in there, bro? No. No, please. please,
I'm trying not to get tased and shot at
please, 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 please.
It goes on and on. And this is just one of thousands of examples of what to expect after your weapons are taken from you. You think these people are behaving in grotesque and disturbing ways now? Well, when they know that you're powerless to defend yourself, that is going to be ramped up 100-fold. And I think the prison experiment, along, and like Beta said in a comment last night, thank you, Beta, for the well-written and thought-out comment, as usual, that, it just completely slipped my mind. I'll just go to the comment. Right. I don't know how that could have slipped my mind. But based on the prison experiment and the shock experiment, 2/3 of people will conform and be capable of enacting evil based on peer pressure. And he's correct. He is correct. So, as I said before, when they have the ability to come to your home unworried about consequences, the possibility that they too will be victims of the very same gun that they're holding to your head, things will get much, much worse. People will be abused at a much, much higher rate. And it's already pretty bad now. Let's go ahead and move on. This one was at the Free Thought Project, by the way. I think the last two are. And this one was written by Matt Argus. Matt Argus. Come on. Fucking computer. Alright. Here's another one. You like your daughters being raped and abused by government officials and police? Well, if you have no guns to defend your children, your daughters, well, this is the kind of thing that will probably happen at a much higher rate. Woman dies after family says she jumped out of a cop car to avoid rape. And I'm not going to hit the whole article, but I will hit the first 3 paragraphs here. The Graham County Sheriff's Office had one job to do: transport Jordan Marie Sims from their county to Mount Graham Regional Hospital and then back to jail. But instead of arriving safely at the hospital, Sims allegedly removed her cuffs, opened the door to the police Ford Explorer, and jumped out of the vehicle while it was going down the road. The impact left Sims with closed head injuries to her brain, leaving her brain dead. She later died. Now, Sims' family is demanding answers, which they will get none, and telling a story of their own. They're accusing one of the Graham County Sheriff's Office deputies of raping Sims, who was taken into custody on a shoplifting charge. ABC 15 spoke with Sims' aunt, Crystal Barnett, by phone. And this is what she said. She was a ray of sunshine when she wanted to be. Her life meant something. We want to know how this happened. How do you get the handcuffs off your wrist? I mean, I've tried, and it would take a lot of pain to get them off your wrist the way they tighten them around them. We want to know what she suffered prior to this event. It's been incredibly challenging. We are just waiting for the process to get started. We want answers. We know that something is not right with the whole scenario. Jordan was in the prime or in the grips of addiction, but under that addiction was a kind, loving, funny woman. And they will justify this based on this woman's addiction. They will justify her murder, her rape. And again, if you think it's bad now, you just wait until we are disarmed. My question to you is, are you going to allow that to happen? Are you going to stand idly by as a genocide on the American people launches? Here's another one. And it could be, and the reason I'm including this in this video is because, well, I think these drone clusters could be them getting ready to do something. But I don't know. What do I know? I'm just a stupid white boy, right? Concerning clusters of drones flying grid patterns over 2 states have officials on edge. This too comes from Matt Argus. Matter of fact, let me show you something here. I got a little drone myself. It's just a little basic drone. I'm getting some practice flying these things before I actually buy a higher dollar one. So, if you don't have a drone, I think it'd probably be a good prepping item. This thing flies very, very well, and I cannot wait to get the better version. But I'm gonna wait until I stop crashing so much. They're pretty fun to fiddle around with too, by the way. Okay. Over the past 5 years, drone usage in the United States has increased drastically as the technology gets cheaper. With the increase in usage, government has been frantically attempting to regulate them, as the following case illustrates. However, they aren't very successful. You can build one of these, add features to it, such as a shotgun barrel, among other things, a taser. You can add things to these to weaponize them. And then I wouldn't only go with simply a air drone. You can also weaponize remote control cars and trucks as well. But here it is. I think we're going to start seeing these grid patterns flying over the states that we have covered: New York, Virginia, California, Washington, and so on and so forth. I find it interesting, too, that Donald Trump has demanded California do something about their homeless crisis and threatening to use federal authorities to solve the so-called problem. It is a problem, but I think the government is a much bigger one. What do you suppose is going to happen to those homeless people? I have a pretty good idea. Pretty good. Feds get involved, those homeless people are going to end up in these concentration camps that have been being built since the early 80s. But that was a conspiracy theory. But I'm going to hit a quote here, and we'll be done with this video. This comes from the Denver Post. The sheriffs of Lincoln, Washington, and Sedgwick counties told the Denver Post on Friday that their offices have been getting calls this week about the unknown winged devices days after initial reports out of Phillips and Yuma counties caused a national stir. Local and national authorities say they have no idea who is operating the group of large drones reported to have, and get this, 6-foot wingspans and spend the nighttime hours flying in a grid-like pattern. While the powers that be have no answers, and believe me, that's just bullshit, they know what's going on. The mysterious aircraft have inspired a wide range of theories online. It has to be the work of a Mexican drug cartel, one commenter on the Post's website said. No, it's obviously aliens from a far-off galaxy, another replied. Perhaps it's the History Channel looking for lost cities or ranchers trying to track their cows, others theorized. And Sedgwick County Sheriff Carlton Britton says, "We have no idea at this point. No leads and no thoughts. It's just an odd phenomenon." So, when the United Nations begins their operations, it looks to me like the people who said this is some far-off, distant event waiting to happen, I think probably they're wrong. I think the far-off, distant event was in the 1980s. And here we are, right? Could I be wrong? Of course. I don't have insiders like Dave Hodges constantly claims to have. I used to. But when my channel got banned, I lost those 2 subscribers. One of them was a Marine. They said that I was pretty much on the right track of what was going on at that time. And there's no reason to believe that these plans have changed. They've either been slowed down or sped up. Now, are you ready to defend yourself and your family from these foreign invaders? I think Donald Trump is going to let this happen. I think he's powerless to stop it. Just like he's powerless when it comes to going to war. He has no say-so in it. All he can do is pretend to be going along with it. That's it. Are you ready? I hope you are. And after this happens, I hope people finally understand why we should kill the state. And it's simply so we can live free.